Hi, I'm Karsen Spencer, and this is my story about how I fell off a zipline in a foreign country. So, starting off, my grandparents literally love cruises because my grandma can't really walk well, so she likes to see the view from the cruise ship and just like watch.
Mm-hmm.
So, we took a cruise to Alaska in 2010. In 2015, they were like, let's go on another cruise. Let's go to Belize, like Honduras, Cozumel. And so we did. It was on Thanksgiving week. So my family's huge. There's like 30 of us.
Wow.
We're Italian. So it's just like huge. I know I don't look Italian, but I am. But it was my mom and her 4 siblings. She has 3 sisters and a brother. And my parents told me that we could pick an excursion to go on when we got there. My sister, the day before, went snorkeling with my dad. And so the next day, I was like, I want to go ziplining. That's so fun. Also, I was pretty young.
How old were you?
2015. So I was 14.
Okay.
So the next day, we went on a zipline. It was me, my cousin, my sister, my mom, and my aunt that all went on this zipline excursion. It was like cave tubing and ziplining together. Mm-hmm. But we went in the car, and as soon as we got there, they were like, oh, cave tubing, it's too flooded. It's been raining all week. You're not going to be able to go cave tubing. But we all wore swimsuits, and we wore tank tops and shorts over them. And we were like, okay, why wouldn't you tell us that before we even got on the boat or got on the
right. Because did you pay for both?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we get to the excursion, and it's all good, But now we're sad that we are still wearing swimsuits, and now we're just going to go ziplining. Mm-hmm. And so I'm wearing these booty shorts, and I'm wearing this big tank top that I got the day before in Honduras, and I was really cool. I was like, oh, I'm the coolest kid because, I feel like Cozumel, Honduras merch, when you're a kid, is just
yeah,
I went here, I did this. So really excited. I've been ziplining before, at church camp and stuff, but not across any big gaps of
so I was gonna ask
forest.
you, I've been ziplining at not, I guess, a park, and then I've done it for a school field trip, and it was in the woods.
Yeah,
but was this zipline?
It was through the forest. So
okay, so it was a big zipline.
Yeah, so there were 6 in total. There were 6 ziplines.
Okay.
In the rounds of ziplines.
Got it.
So we're going to do 6 ziplines total. But it started easy, and then it got harder and harder and harder, okay. And then got longer. Was
it high up?
Yeah, it was depending on each zipline, because they were attached to trees. But the last one was 6 feet, but the first one was just small, easy, just to be trained on how to do it. So we get there, we have gloves. The tour guides are showing us how to do it. We have a glove, and it has a grip on it. And they're like, okay, you're going to have to stop yourself because there's no stoppers when you're going on the zip lines. So you have to pull down and I don't even know, foreign countries. But
that's the first problem.
Yeah. So it's a glove, and then it has a little C hook, and you have to pull down and stop yourself. So the zip line guy is okay, go ahead. We go on this zip line. It goes, my cousin goes first, then my sister goes, then I go. Then my mom goes, and then my aunt goes. And we're all going down. It's fine. It's just practice. We're just learning how to stop, basically. We are walking to the second zip line. It starts to downpour, and we're in the rainforest. So it's mosquito-y, gross, nasty. So we're going down the second one, and the second one's a little bit longer. You cannot see the end of it. You can't see the other side. But you could on a clear day, if it wasn't raining. So, again, my cousin goes, my sister goes, I go, then my mom goes down, and she's going down, then my aunt goes down. So my aunt's going down, and she gets to the other side, and they're unhooking her, and the guy tells my mom, go ahead, you're good to go. My mom starts going down, and then she sees that her sister is still being unhooked, and there's no guy to catch her. So she's starts slowing down, though it's raining, so it's harder to slow down because the zipline cords are
also
wet.
It's why would they continue if you can't really see the end?
Money. It's money. They just want,
Oh my God.
They just want your
Before
money.
you continue, just so I don't forget, this is just a little thought that I've had, but I feel like this is a prime example because when you're young, I feel like we are fearless. Like, you want to do all these fun things. I remember when I was young, I used to want to skydive.
Yeah.
That was like a big thing on my bucket list. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Don't want to die.
Yeah. Now
And also, I mean, you hear so many people go on these vacations and they innocently want to do these excursions or these fun activities, and they can be fine.
Yeah.
But then these freak accidents can also happen, which is terrifying.
Very terrifying.
And it sucks because it's like you want to live your life and experience things, but you're risking serious injury or death.
Yeah, and you don't think about that when you're on it, you know? You're like, okay, we're just going to go zip
Especially when you're that young. Like, you just want to have fun. Okay, continue. That was just something that was in my mind.
Oh, also, like, the excursion was not through the cruise line. That's, like, something to mention my mom. Okay. My mom, like, loves a deal. She loves to get a deal any way, any sort, which, me too, girl. But, so she, like, booked through the company itself rather than the excursion. Because the excursion was, you could book the same excursion, the same place, but just through the cruise line for like $40 more per person. And she was like, I'm just going to book through the person itself because that's cheaper.
Right.
Yeah. So the second zip line, my mom can't see my aunt and the guy just sends her. And she's going down. She sees my aunt still being unhooked. And she starts slowing down and she can't really slow down because the railing or like the zip line is wet. And so she's like pulling really hard and she finally slows down and my aunt finally gets like unhooked from the zip line. And the guy sees her coming in and he pushes my aunt out of the way, grabs my mom. My mom like swings up, hits the tree like with her foot. And she like, he grabs her waist. She goes up. She hits the tree and then she gets off. And on the walk to the next zip line, she is complaining. My mom is very like tolerant to pain. Like she's not, it has to be like the end of the world for her to like complain about anything. She's very like she's really risky. Like she always gets hurt, I swear. But we're walking in the next zip line. She's like complaining like my foot hurts so bad. And I'm like, you're chill. You're like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're fine. So we're all walking, whatever. She just keeps complaining about her foot. And we're like, okay, whatever. And she's like, I think I broke my toe. Like, I think I broke my foot. And we're like, no, you're fine. Like, I don't think that could happen. Like, we're like, whatever. So we go on the third zip line. We go on the fourth zip line. We go on the fifth zip line. Everything's fine. It's beautiful. It's still raining, but it's, like, fun. Like, you know, I love rain. And it wasn't, like, thundering or anything. Also, I forgot to mention, this was on Thanksgiving Day So, like, which was crazy enough. Right. So now that's, like, the anniversary of Thanksgiving, which is insane. But we get to the sixth zip line. My cousin goes. My sister goes. I start going down. And this sixth zip line is over this huge river. And it's raining, and the rapids are insane. They're, like, underneath. There's, like, rushing rapids. And we're like, okay, this should be fun, whatever. It's like the biggest. Well, I'm a little bit angsty, and there's no way down from the zip line. So the fifth zip line went to the sixth zip line platform, and then the sixth zip line, like, went to the next platform. So there was no walking between the zip line.
So if you wanted to stop halfway through,
you really couldn't.
Okay.
Because
you had to go.
You were just going to the next platform.
Okay.
And it was 6 stories up. And so we're going over this river, and so huge river, and then like there's like a bank, and then there's trees. There's like a whole forest right next to it. And we're like, okay, cool. Didn't think anything of it until it's going down. And so I start going, and right in front of my eyes, I see this tree, this waterlogged tree just start falling. And it hits my zip line while I'm going down, and I'm just shocked. I'm like pulling my hardest to like stop myself. I don't think I've like ever pulled like that hard. I was using both hands because I was like, this is insane. The tree's falling. Next thing I know, I'm being dragged into water.
And you were still attached?
Yes. The zip line never broke, but the tree was, and it like made it slack, and it dragged me all the way down to the water. Into the rapids, into the rushing rapids. So the tree, I ended up like being like super close to the tree. My feet were on the tree. I was still attached to my zip line. The water was like to here on me. Like I was pretty low. The tree was massive on top of me, on top of the zip line. And I was quite literally freaking out. My sister and my cousin were on the other side just like, it's gonna be okay. And my mom's a preacher, or like youth minister preacher type. And she was like, Karsen, it's okay. Like, it's okay. You'll be okay. You'll be fine. And I was just like not crying, not anything. I was just like in shock. Next thing I knew, 2 men come out of the woods with a chainsaw. And I'm like, okay, this should be fun, you know? Also, like, things are hitting me left and right in the water. Like, branches, like, different things are just, like, flying, hitting my legs down this river. And I'm also being, like, pulled. So, like, I'm, like, going. But to keep my stability, I put my feet on the tree so I can, like, kind of, like, stand sit.
How fast would you say that you went down, like, into the water? Like, was it kind of like a slow fall, or was it fast?
Was once the tree hit the zip line, then it was just like down.
Do you remember feeling any pain going down, or no?
No, not any, really. The pain really came afterwards. Also, I think it was like shock. Like when you're in that situation,
you're not thinking about.
You're not like, oh, my leg hurts, you know. So that all happened. These men come out of the woods. They start speaking to me. And I'm like, I don't understand them. They're speaking a different language. So I know a little bit of Spanish, not a lot, just to get by. But they speak Creole, which is like French, Spanish combined. So some words will be French, some words will be Spanish. And so I didn't understand these men. And they, like, I couldn't understand them. They couldn't understand me. It's kind of a tough situation. So they tossed me a rope.
Were they with the company or no?
I still don't know. They just came out of the woods.
Okay.
Like 2 random men. And they were like bigger guys. They come out of the woods. They started like brainstorming things to do, I guess. They get a rope and they tie it around my like waist. They tell me like to tie it around my waist. So I tie it like around my waist and they're like, swim, like swim, like, can you swim? And I was like, no, because I was pretty far from the shore. And
also, it's rapids. It doesn't matter how good of a swimmer you are.
Yeah, literally. And I was thinking that too. I was like, I am not a good swimmer in general. There's no way I'm going to be able to swim through these rapids. I'm probably going to drown in the process. Probably would die. So I told them, no, I can't swim. So they had to brainstorm another idea. So they climb on the tree. These men they walk on the tree. They obviously go down a little bit farther. So it's like up to like here now. And they get a chainsaw and they're like, okay, we're going to cut off the top part of the tree and then tie the rope that was around me to the end of the other side that they didn't chop. So they're walking down, they chop off the tree goes down the river within 30 seconds. It's lost. Like the whole top of the tree gone. And that was like the craziest part, like how fast it went down that river. And it just kind of like made things more real. Like, dang, I'm so glad I didn't swim, because if I were to swim, I would have 100% drowned. And so I just like, I don't know, I was scared out of my mind. So then they tied the rope that was around me to the tree, like itself. And
were you still attached to the zip line and everything? Okay.
I was still attached. The harness was hurting, like at this point. Because you can imagine, like, harnesses are not fun. Also, I was in a swimsuit and shorts. So, like, the chafing was insane.
Yeah.
Shorts were way up. The harness was not comfy. And just sitting there, I was in the water for 45 minutes. Like, this whole thing was, like, a long.
Right.
Because I don't think they knew what to do or how to do it. So they finally, like, 2 men come down and join me. And then 2 men pull up the, like, tie the rope to the tree, and they grab the tree and they pull it up off the zip line. And the 2 men are like holding me, like their legs are around me, their arms are around me. And they're like, okay, here we go. So they pull up the tree of the zip line. We go shooting up in this air. Like,
fast?
I mean, it was pretty slow because they like pulled it off like slowly. But I mean, we go flowing up. The zip line is
one of them's holding on to you?
Both of them have their legs, like, touching each other. So, like...
So, they're going up with you with no harness or anything, obviously?
They attach themselves to the harnesses.
Okay.
They put on harnesses and they...
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, that's
No,
risky.
that would be crazy. But it was, like, they had no shoes on the whole time.
Right.
Oh, I can remember those men's feet. They were nasty. But they, like, both put their legs around me, and both of their legs were wrapping around each other, which was crazy. I was like in the middle of like
two
grown men like straddling me.
Right.
And that was just awkward itself. I was like a 14-year-old. I was like, ugh.
Just save me.
I'm like, yeah, just get me out of this situation. Like the zip line, not so bad. This situation, bad. So we go flying up and they drag me. Like the zip line's like still pretty slack because the tree just fell on it. And they're dragging me up it like one by one, hand by hand. They're just like pulling me up the zip line. And that was crazy too because I would not have been able to like pull myself back up.
I mean, at that point, you're kind of relying on two other people to save your life.
Yeah, exactly. And like if the tree would have fallen seconds before, seconds later, I would have been either under the tree, or if it fell later, I would have been like dragged back and I probably would have broken my back. So
right.
It was a very good situation that I was where I was at the time I was, because I would have died any other way. Died drowning too.
Mm-hmm.
So they drag me up. I finally get to the platform. I'm like, get off the zip line, and I just lay down. I look down at my legs. They're purple and blue. They have so many bruises on them from the things that hit me in the water. I cannot feel my legs. Like, it was bad. And I lay down, and they're like, okay, we have to get the next people on the zip line. Like, you have to move. I was like, what? Like,
why would they even use it?
I know. Well, because like the 5th platform went to the 6th. So it was the only way down for like my mom and my aunt.
They were behind you? Like they hadn't gone yet?
No, they had not gone yet. So yeah, so there's the only way down. So they're like, we have to use it. So you have to move off the platform. I was like, I can't feel my legs. Also, this whole time, my sister and my cousin were at the bottom of the zip line, or the other side of the zip line, because they already went on that zip line. And they were like running back and forth. And I was like, why are they running? Like, why aren't they just like supporting me, staying here watching? They were like, there's so many mosquitoes in this rainforest because of the rain. And it was like my mom and my aunt didn't really face it because they're 6 feet up in the air. But my sister and my cousin were just getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. So they were like running out of the forest, running back in to check on me, running back out, running back in. And so finally get on the platform. My sister is running back in. She helps me get to like a bench. So we sit on a bench and she's like, Karsen, we have to go. Like, I'm getting eaten alive. Like, I cannot be in this forest anymore. I'm like, I just need a sec. I need to breathe. I'm like, just went through this horrible situation. I just like, I don't even give a shit about like mosquitoes. I just need to like lay down. I just need to be chill. And so I sit there. My legs start returning back to normal color. I'm like, I need to get this harness off. That's the first thing I need. Get the harness off. I'm like, finally, like, you know, I'm okay. Breathe, whatever, like, what's going to come out of this next.
Also the fact that I feel like, I mean, I know you were in a different country, but the fact that no one attended to you, like, immediately.
I know. No one
crazy
seemed to care.
Like, oh, she's breathing and alive.
But yeah, she made it. She's fine, you know.
Right.
Now you got to move. Now we got to keep running business, you know.
But also, like you said, in moments like that, you don't even really know the pain and what has happened until, like, after the fact.
Yeah. It was like, I don't know. It happened so fast, but it was so long.
Mm-hmm.
Like, looking back on it, an hour, like, I was there for such a long time, like, on that last zip line. And I was just like, you know, no one tended to me afterwards. No one asked if I was okay. No one apologized. Nothing. And so we finally walk out of I wanted to wait for my mom and my aunt to go down so I could see if they were okay. And I wait for them to get across, and my mom is just, like, crying. She's like, my mom does not cry unless she's mad. And she's like, I'm just glad you're okay. And I was like, yeah. So we start walking back to, like, where the bus is and stuff. No one asked me how I was. No one checked on me. Nothing. No refund. No anything. So we walked back to the front, and there is a huge, huge line of people, like, lined up wanting to go on these zip lines. Because obviously I stopped the zip lines for a long time because I fell off one, you know? It took me a while, so everyone was backed up like 45 minutes because obviously you can't go on a zip line, or you don't want people to see that. So that was crazy. And
I just don't understand why they were still doing it, because it's like, even if the zip line didn't break, a tree just fell on it. So it's clearly not in the same state it was.
Yeah, literally. I don't know if they like pulled the line back like tighter or like fixed it or something, but I was I don't know how they're doing it.
Right.
They just like kept running production. Like it seemed like I walked out, no one in the line knew what happened to me. No one, like, I was soaking wet, but they just thought, okay, it was raining, you know?
Yeah.
There's like no reason to overthink that. And so it was just like really strange. And it was like kind of sad that no one really cared. My mom was still complaining about her foot at that point too. And so we get back in the car to head back to the port. And they were like, the excursion was like, oh, provided lunch too. And we're like, okay, like we're gonna go eat somewhere in Belize. Like, this is fun, whatever. We get in the van and she's like, oh, I packed y'all sandwiches. We're like, okay, sandwiches, cool. So we ate sandwiches for lunch, headed all the way back. And as soon as we got back, I tell my parent and my dad, I'm like, this just happened. My mom was like, you know, I gotta go to the clinic because my grandparents travel a lot on cruises. And they're like, you should go in the clinic on the cruise. Like, you shouldn't wait until you get back to go to the clinic for my mom because her foot was hurting. And they were like, it's gonna be a lot cheaper on the cruise, which I didn't know. Like, healthcare on the cruise is pretty cheap because it's like in the middle of the city. Right. Like, they don't really have to do much. But so she goes, gets her foot checked out. Turns out her pinky toe was broken and her whole foot was like shattered from the zip line, from hitting the tree. And so she's wearing a boot the rest of the trip. I'm just in my room just like processing.
Did they have you go to the clinic at all?
No, because I didn't have any like pressing injuries. Okay. I had a lot of bruises and I had like deep bone bruises for a long time. Like if you would feel my leg, it would just have like a bump. But nothing like was broken. Nothing was hurt. So I just didn't, because they were like, I don't know. I didn't really need to. So I just like went back in. I was telling everyone that didn't go on the excursion with me, like what happened. They were like, that's crazy. And then soon after that, the jokes started coming. Like, you know, like, oh my God, that would happen to you. That would happen to you. Like, you know. And I was just like, you know, too soon for jokes, too soon. But we celebrated Thanksgiving with that whole group of people. Like that night, there was 23 of us. We were eating like in the cruise lounge, whatever, talking about it. And I was just kind of like stunned and I didn't process it or whatever. And it was just like a really, really traumatic experience. And it was just took me a while to like process and realize what happened. And like most after it, I don't really remember much of that cruise after Thanksgiving because it just felt like a blur because of how like traumatized it was.
I think too, people don't realize, I always say like, unless something happens to you, you don't really fully grasp it and understand. But whether something happens directly to you or you see something traumatic, that stuff will like linger for a little while.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine like people might not realize this because you're fine, but your life flashed before your eyes. Like there was more than a 50% chance that if, like you said, if one thing went wrong or anything, you could have died. Yeah. And that's terrifying. And you weren't near home. Mm-mm. And it was like all the circumstances were horrible and scary. Yeah. So I can only imagine like, not only would I be scared to do anything after, but mentally I feel like that's something that you can't just shake it off. Like, oh, I tripped and fell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I broke my foot one time. Right. Yeah. No, I think it was hard on a lot of people. I think my parents didn't know how to, like, go through that with me and, like, figure it out. Because my parents have been really supportive and they're really great. But, like, as a child, they're, like, don't know how to handle emotions very well. Yeah. So I just didn't know how to do it. They didn't know how to do it. We didn't know how to figure it out together. It was just kind of something that, like, we really didn't talk about afterwards for, like, a few years. And until, like, I had a really bad PTSD, like, thing.
That's what I was going to say, too. I, like, didn't want to assume because sometimes I know people can, like, use different not terminologies, but what is it called? Like, diagnose things in different ways. But I was going to say, that was what I was going to say is when things like that happen, you definitely have that, like, lingering PTSD from it, for sure, in so many different ways.
Yeah, and it's so random how I still have PTSD. Like, I don't know. I have PTSD from the water. Like, brown, murky water that are rapids, like, scares the life out of me. And, I mean, that's, like, a stupid thing to be scared of, but, like, with my experience, it's not really stupid. No. heights. I've never been scared of heights. Even 2 years after, I wasn't scared of heights.
Hey guys, today's episode is sponsored by Bellesa. All right guys, so my friends and I over at Bellesa are sending out free toys and free gift cards to everyone that signs up to my giveaway. If you don't know what Bellesa is a by women company for all things sexual wellness. Bellesa's mission is to empower everyone to embrace, explore, and celebrate their sexuality. So if you're watching today's episode, as you can see, I have 3 toys from Bellesa on my table, and I'm going to give you a quick little rundown of what each of these toys are called and what they do. All right, so first up, we have the Pebble. The Pebble is suction and vibration controlled independently. It is built to fit perfectly in your hand, and there is no annoying pattern modes. Next up, we have the Air Vibe. The Air Vibe is dual stimulation and comes in the most discreet casing. It is waterproof, rechargeable, and silent, but deadly. And then last but not least, we have the Thump. The Thump is a toy that does it all. Vibrates, suctions, and thumps. The Thump also fits and charges in a discreet carrying case and is waterproof and USB rechargeable, and it is made from premium quality silicone. And as you can see, all of the packaging is super discreet and small and fits right in my hands. You wouldn't even know what it is. This one kind of looks like an eyeglass case. It's absolutely perfect. Be sure to sign up with the link in the description below because everybody that signs up wins something. And now back to today's episode.
But now
You're older.
I'm
you
older.
Start to realize the reality.
I'm like, no, I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to be up like super high. Like,
yeah,
scares the life out of me. So after that, my mom, she's like a preacher. She'd like mission trips, you know. So she still wants me to go. She still wants me to experience things. We go to church camp. We do zip lines and stuff at the church camp. Just like small zip lines, you know, just like little short zip lines. And I was able to do them for like 2 years and I'd have fun with it, whatever. And I wasn't like freaked out about it. I was just like pretty chill, you know, it was fine. And one year we went to Costa Rica for a mission trip. We were going to like paint a school. It was pretty fun. But we go to Costa Rica and that's fun. And we usually like for mission trips, we have like all these work days. So we're there for like 5 days, I think. But we had all these work days and then one day is like fun. Like you just go out with your group and you have fun. It's like a little treat for like the like people that are doing like the mission work. And so we go ziplining. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun. Like, you know, I'm not really scared of zip lines at that point. At that point, I was like, YOLO, like, I'm not going to let something hold me back. Like, I was very in my head, like, I'm not going to let this stop me. I'm not going to let this, like, take my life away from me or make me scared of living. And so we go on the mission trip. We go ziplining. That was, like, fun. Like, we had, the zipline adventure was so fun. At the very last zip line, starts raining. It starts like raining at that place. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to skip the last zip line. I'm not going to do that. So I think like everyone else went, but I didn't go on that last one. I just like kind of waited for the group. And I think my mom waited with me. Cause I was like, zip line, rain? No. Like,
not doing this again.
Yeah. So that's fine. Like everything went well. My mom was like, see, Karsen, like you don't have to worry. Like, that's only a once-in-a-lifetime event. Like, that's a freak accident, you know? You'll be fine. Like, see, wasn't that fun? Wasn't that exciting? Like, now you can zip line again? Like, you're cured, kind of. I was like, okay, yeah, like, that was fun. So, it starts raining. We, like, are waiting for our group. There's, like, a little museum, like, with the zip lines. So, like, we're walking through the museum. We're reading stuff. There's, like, a butterfly exhibit. We're, like, going around, like, just, like, exploring, kind of. And we had a tour guide, and we rode some gondolas. Like, it was just, like, fun. And we were just, like, in a huge group, too, because it was, like, a big mission trip. And so we split off to 2 groups because, like, one group wanted to stay behind and ride, like finish on the gondolas. And one group is like, okay, we're going to wait on the bus. So, like, I think one adult my mom came with my group. And then another adult came with the other group. And then there was a group before us, too, that was with us. So we had this big, like, charter bus. And so we're headed back, like I was in the middle group and we're headed back to the bus and the tour guide is like, hey, the road that the bus would come pick you up at is flooded. the bus can't get through, so we're going to just have to walk it. And we're like, okay, you know, whatever, that's understandable, like, cool. So we walk it. And we get to a part where the road is, like, flooded, rushing rapids. I showed you that video. Mm-hmm. But...
wait, that was the road?
Yeah, that was the road. That wasn't just a river. That was the road across. Yeah. Yeah. So the tour guide's like, okay, I'm going to take off my shoes because we're going to have to cross this. And my mom's like, no, we're not. Are you joking? Like, you're good. No, we're not. We're not crossing that. And he's like, yeah, I have to be in San Jose in like 2 hours. Like, we have to cross it. Like, this is the only way out. And we're like, okay. And we're assuming that the group right in front of us already did it, you know. They've already been through that. They survived, whatever. Cool. So I was like, okay, we'll do it. That's fine. So all of us in a group link up arms like this. And we're all like pretty young still. And we all link up arms. The guy takes off his shoes, ties them around his neck, like ties like the shoelaces together, puts it around his neck, and he's like, okay, let's go. And he's like so happy about it. And we're like, all like, this is terrifying. Why are we crossing this river? Like, it was scary. Like, our legs, it was pretty high up on our legs.
Yeah, and for those of you that haven't been in rapids, let me just tell you, it doesn't matter if it's only to your ankles. Mm-hmm. That shit will take you down and kill you.
Yeah, literally.
Like, so, I've done that before. I was young, and I'll never forget, like, the water wasn't even above my ankles. It was so shallow. Mm-hmm. But also the rocks are full of algae, and they're so slippery. Yes. Like, you got no chance in rapids.
For sure. So we're all like super scared to go across this river. And the guy takes off his shoes, puts them around his neck. He's like, y'all should take off your shoes too if y'all want. And I'm like, I'm not taking off my shoes. Like, my bare feet are going to be less stable than my shoes. Like, I'm not going to have any grip on the road. So I wear my shoes, which makes it harder because there's water in my shoes now. It makes it harder to lift my shoes. It makes it harder to move. So we're all walking across, and we're all like, he was like, just hold each other's arms like this. So we're all like walking across, like grabbing each other's arms like in a line. And so we're all going. We all crossed the river. I was shaking. The girl next to me was shaking. It was raining. Our arms were just like slipping apart. And the girl next to me, her name was Hannah. Love her. She was like, Karsen, we might have to let go. So we were like literally like to this point where we're holding each other's hands, just like, because if we let go, then there's no stability, and one of us could have just, you know, flown off. And so we finally like get across, and which was so scary. And we're moving so slow too. Like, everyone's like one step at a time, like sideways. We weren't even like walking straight. We're just walking sideways. And we finally get across, and there's this huge tree that like was like blocking the road that fell too, I guess, but we didn't see it fall. So we're sitting on this like tree talking, and we were just gonna wait for the next group because we didn't want them just to like have to cross that alone, or like, we wanted to be there to support. And my mom was like so confused why the first group did not wait for us. She was like, that's kind of like crazy that like they crossed that river and they didn't wait to see if anybody else was okay. And so that was kind of shocking to her, and she just like couldn't understand it. So we had like a mile walk after that. And we were sitting on a tree waiting for that next group, and all of a sudden we hear them, but we don't see them. We don't see them crossing over. We look up, and there's a sky bridge. They walk across the sky bridge. They walk down, they walk through the forest, and they meet us. So my mom, everyone was livid because this tour guide just made us walk through this river when there was a sky bridge the whole time, like up above the river. There was no reason we had to walk across that. He put all of our lives in danger for literally no reason. And so my mom was just like mad, and we were all mad. And we wait for them, and then my mom's telling the other adult that was with the like group behind us, like, this is what just happened. This is what all these kids put through. And she felt bad herself. She was like, I should have known. Like, I should have known that this is not the only option. This had to happen before. Like, this road was low. Like, the river like nearly runs. If it floods a little, it's probably gonna run through that. So she was just kind of upset that like she let us do that too. But she didn't know any better. She was just listening to the tour guide. So we start walking back, and I lost it. I like break down tears, but like I'm with all my peers too. Like, I'm with people I just met, friends I just met. They don't know my story. They don't know me. And I just like am embarrassed that I'm crying in general. Like, I don't like crying around people. But I like just break down and I sit down and I lose it. I'm like sobbing my eyes out and my mom's like, what's going on? I'm like, that was just the worst PTSD I've ever had. Like the rushing rapids, the river, like just being in that water again and seeing that. And I think also like the fact that like the other group just walked across a sky bridge, like the fact that we didn't even have to do that, but I got put in that situation was just kind of very traumatic. And I didn't even realize I had PTSD because it was like 2 years later. Like, never had faced it. I mean, also, like, I'm not just in rivers all the time.
Right. I was going to say you were in a situation, an environment that probably felt extremely familiar.
Yeah.
And similar.
Yeah. So I'm, losing it, crying, And after we walked across, like, the thing, we all were like, yeah, we did it. Like, good job, guys. Like, we're all hugging. We're all cheering. And then, so we walk up, lose it, crying. I've never felt like that PTSD before. And that's kind of when I realized that I had really, really bad PTSD. And I didn't even, like, know of it. You're good. But it was just, like, didn't realize it, didn't know. And that's when it really kicked in. And after that trip, it's just, like, really never been the same. Can't go on zip lines, can't go high, like, And high school was hard, too, because, like, I really, not a lot of people, like, know how to interact with that. I didn't want to tell people and be, like, that kid that, like, everyone felt bad for. Like, I don't want people feeling bad for me. It was just a freak accident. It happened. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. But just, like, the preventative measures weren't in place. Like, there was no one, like, looking out for me. I feel like in those situations, like, the people in the zip line didn't care. The people after the tour guide didn't care. So the tour guide, we get back to the bus from the long-ass walk up the hill, and we're all soaking, and we finally get back to the bus. And the guy, so my mom was with this other youth minister, the second group that came, his name was Alex. He was nice. Mom was telling about it, and he saw me lose it, and he's like, what happened? And my mom told him, like, she fell off the zip line in, like, 2015. It's just really, really traumatic for her. And so he goes off on the tour guide and is like, why would you let them do that? Like, this and that, like, screaming at him. Like, and I'm telling, like, the people on the bus, like, what happened. And the tour guide ended up getting fired.
Really?
Yeah, because Alex, the other youth minister, was like, no, I'm not going to let this slide. Like, this is not okay. He should not even have to think about putting people in danger. Like, this is his job. Mm-hmm. And he shouldn't think about it. So he got fired. And, I mean, it was sad to see. But, like, at the same time, like, he shouldn't have put us in that place.
Yeah, and I think, too, it's hard to know what people need to sort through when they go through different things. Like, whether it's in therapy or even just talking to somebody. And I feel like I was saying before, the experience that you went through because you were fine, mm-hmm. And you didn't have any major injuries technically, I'm sure even to yourself you didn't think, like, okay, I need to sort through this and get through it. But it's almost like you said, years later, that PTSD popped up out of nowhere. Yeah.
Didn't even think about it. Like, was fine, honestly.
Right.
Like, but that same year, my mom was like, church camp again, like, let's go. So we go on the zip lines again, and we go on I get all the way up to the top, and I look down, and I'm like, you know what? I can't do it. Like, there's no way. Like, I waited in line, I did the whole thing, and I was like, there's no way I can just do it. So my mom's like, that's fine. Like, I understand. So I walked all the way back down. So it was very traumatic. So I finally get, like, the courage to go back up, and I just can't do it. I go back down, and I'm just like, you know what, defeated. And everyone's like, Karsen, like, well, you did that last year. Like, why can't you do it? And then it's, like, embarrassing to tell people, like, oh, like, I fell off the zip line, like, this story. Because then everyone's like, oh, what happened? Like, who, like, everyone just is so intrigued. And then, like, I'm known as, like, the zip line girl, which is, like, fine. But, like, I don't want people to, like, see that for me or, like, put me as, or feel bad for me or, like, put me in that place, or, like, be, like, cautious around me or, like, not invite me to adventurous things. Right. But yeah, I mean, after that, like, high school was just, like, felt like a blur a little bit because it was just, like, I don't know, it's just very traumatic, and I never, like, fully healed from it until, like, recently. But it's kind of hard to heal from. Like, once you have PTSD, you have it. It's like you can't really get past it.
And who knows what's gonna kind of set it off.
Yeah, who knows who's gonna trigger it.
Did you have to go to therapy for it?
I didn't for a long time. And then when I went to college, it was like free therapy for like 3 sessions, and I was like, okay, cool. So I went and I did that, and
we didn't really like that helped.
No, because it was like the school therapist. Yeah. Just like.
So what do you think? Just like time?
Yeah, I think time. It still like makes me like gives me PTSD to the day, but there's like I'm not put in that situation a lot.
Right.
You know, like I don't have to go through muddy rivers. I don't have to be on zip lines. Like it's all optional. Like I'm not obviously probably get a zip line again in my life. I already had those experiences. I already had those years. I just think it was crazy how after the fact I was able to get back on a zip line. Mm-hmm. Like I don't know, if I would have told that story, I would not have thought I would just be able to like live those next 2 years just ziplining, having fun, like being adventurous. And I consider myself like really adventurous like as a kid, but now I'm like scared to do things.
How old are you now?
23 or 22. I'm 22, turning 23 in May. But yeah, it's just like I don't know. So now I'm in the corporate world. I'm not.
I mean, like I said though too, the older you get, the more, you know, realistic life becomes, and you get more scared to do things and to be risky because you know the consequences. And I think too, it's important to know because, and I'm glad that you brought it up because I feel like, you know, hearing that story, like you said, people can be intrigued and ask questions, and to the outside perspective, they might think, wow, that's cool, you fell and survived. But to you, it has a different meaning and it hits home, you know? So I think that it's important for people to realize, like, even if somebody's been through something that might seem kind of cool or intriguing or whatever, people might not feel that way. Yeah. And might not feel comfortable just joking about it.
Yeah.
Which I think is hard. Yeah. Which I think is hard for people to really understand. Like I said, unless you've felt it and been through it, people don't really get it because they didn't have that trauma and that fear in that moment.
Yeah, like the bruises lasted like 3 months because they were like bone bruises. And
you're lucky you didn't break anything.
Yeah, I'm super lucky. I've never broken a bone in my life. Yeah. I don't know why. Too much milk, I guess. But I don't know. But like after the fact, like people making jokes like every Thanksgiving, it's now like remember this day like 8 years ago? I don't know. Yeah, kind of. I don't know how many years ago that was. But, like, every Thanksgiving, like, it's brought up. And, you know, that brings me back. And I just, like, don't enjoy that day anymore as much as I normally would. Thanksgiving is not one of my favorite holidays because of it. And, like, this year I went to my boyfriend's for Thanksgiving. And, like, I was just kind of, like, down all day. And I, like, was, like, just brought it up in conversation. I was, like, oh, I'm going on a podcast, yada, yada, yada. And then they were like, for what? And I was like, oh, something that happened to me on Thanksgiving Day. And then I had to explain it. And, you know, that was like, whatever. It was fun. My boyfriend was like, oh, she's going on a podcast. And they're like, oh, that's crazy. But it just, like, diminishes the day now. So now, like, Christmas or, like, Thanksgiving Day is, like, not so fun because it just brings back memories.
And it's a bad memory. It was, like I said, it's a near-death experience. And it's terrifying. And I think I can't express it enough. When you're young, things like that, we can blow it off and it might seem kind of cool. But then as you get older, you realize, like, damn, that actually was scary as shit. And I don't want to be in that situation again.
And realizing it now, like, I feel like it was made to a joke, like, a little bit too fast. Like, I also made it into a joke soon after because I think it was, like, a way to cope. Like,
yeah, for sure.
But when I started making it jokes, everyone else hopping on the bandwagon was like, oh, that's crazy, you fell off a zip line. And it just kind of became a thing. And so now it's just, like, joked about. And I feel like I never fully healed from that. And it's hard to heal from it because what's a therapist going to tell you? It's, like, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Like, they're not trained on how to... I mean, they're trained on how to treat people with PTSD. But, like, it's such a unique and, like, experience that, like, really doesn't happen to people. So it's, like, hard for them to give advice. Or the therapist I've, like, been with recently. Not recently, but, like, it's hard to, like, grow past because it is a scary experience, but all I can do now is not put myself in those situations. But it's just something that, like, I have to move past and live through. And well,
I'm glad you wanted to come tell your story to the show.
Yeah,
it was like, really, really good.
I feel like, I just, like I said, I haven't told any of my, like, friends really because it's hard to bring up in conversation and stuff.
Yeah, so, it's like, what? Because then it's like, well, why would you just bring it up?
Yeah, you're not at the bar with your friends. Oh, I fell off a zip line. LOL. Like, it's just, like, something that, like, a lot of my friends don't know about. And, I mean, I'm excited for them to listen to it and hear it and, like, understand me a little bit more. Right. And, like, the things I went through. And
it's like they get to hear it indirectly, like not from you. Well, from you,
Yeah.
but like not in a conversation where you have to keep telling multiple different people different times. And it's just like, you want to know what happened? Here it is. Watch it.
Here's a link. Yeah.
No, well,
that would be nice.
Yeah, no, you did a great job. Seriously. And it was obviously, I feel like it's such a intriguing story. And I think that, like I said too, I can't express it enough. People don't think that anything bad could happen. And it's not to like put a damper on these fun excursions and vacations and being adventurous, but I think it's important to always know in the back of your mind, freak accidents can happen.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's why you sign waivers. Like it's because it can, and it's scary, but shit, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I've heard too much and seen too much from people. It's just, no, thank you.
Yeah. No, it's like, yeah, no.
It's scary.
Okay. Yeah. It's scary to do like many things, like hearing stories like that. I don't know. It's just.
But you did a great job. Like I said, like you did such a good job of like depicting it that I feel like I could see the tree falling.
Yeah.
Was it a thick tree or a thin tree?
It was like a palm tree. So it was like pretty thick.
But it was like heavy enough that
it was waterlogged. So it was like, that's why it uprooted. And yeah. Like how I remembered it, it was like the river was right next to like a mud patch or like, and then there was the forest.
Right.
And so the water was hitting it like underneath. It was like creating like a divot, and then the tree was like decided to fall. But yeah. And yeah, if everyone's wondering, you can hear a tree fall in the woods.
It's loud.
Yeah.
I remember I was in the woods and I think I don't know if it was a tree. If it was a tree, it was a really skinny one, or it was like a huge branch, but it was like slow. It's weird because it's like slow-mo, but not.
Yeah. And when you see it happening, it's just like so slow.
Right.
But then.
But the fall is like intense.
Yeah. Once it hits, it hits. You're like, you're going down.
And I think too, like if you were underneath of it, like trapped. That would have been a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, if the river was higher, if I was in front of it, if
anything,
I was behind
like you said, yeah.
If I swam, like I cannot believe they even asked me to swim. Like that's insane.
And that's good of you that you didn't, because I feel like there's a lot of people that like that fight or flight that they'd be like, okay, like, and they do what they could to get out of it.
And they would just listen to the people. Right. Yeah, but I was like, nah, I'm okay. Like,
and where the fuck did they get a chainsaw?
I don't know. That's what I'm still wondering to this day. Like, they just came out of the woods with a chainsaw. I was like,
right. What were you guys doing before you found me?
I was like, I don't know. Like, exactly. Like, I feel like they came out of the woods like 3 minutes after.
Yeah.
I mean, they had to hear that.
Right.
Noise, and they probably like were
and
like,
I'm sure like you might not remember exactly, but I'm sure people were shouting and screaming.
Yeah.
I would be.
Yeah. My mom was like, it's okay. And also, I forgot to mention, there's a guy right behind my aunt, and he was on something. He was like dozed off. He was either drunk or something. He had a GoPro. And I don't know, to this day, like, I told my mom, I was like, didn't the guy behind you have a GoPro? Like, I'm pretty sure he had a GoPro. Like, I'm, like, almost positive.
Mm-hmm.
And he, and, like, I don't know where that video is. I don't know, like, if he even is a video. I don't know if he talks about it. But it was, like, this one man behind us, and that was it. It was just, like, my whole family and then the one guy. But I don't know if he, to this day, I still don't know.
See, that's crazy to me, too, because if that were me, I'm just somebody that would not even post it, but I would offer it to you guys just as like, I don't know if you want to take any legal action, who knows, or like if you want it.
I think he was like, that's sick, that was so cool. Like,
he probably does have it.
Yeah,
at least like a part of it or the audio of it.
Yeah, but he was also behind two people. He's behind my mom and my aunt, so I don't know if he could like.
Also, I feel like you wouldn't want that.
Yeah. I was looking at where I went, and I, like, look at pictures of, like, the zip line and, like, the 6 zip line, and just, like, to reminisce on it and to, like, see. Because, like, a lot of times I'm like, okay, I think about it, and I'm like, okay, it wasn't that bad. Because I don't really remember a lot from that day. All I remember is, like, a lot of stories from that day. Because it was super traumatic. But looking at the zip line, looking up the videos, like, even that video of Costa Rica, like, I got it yesterday from my mom, and I haven't seen it in so many years that I didn't realize how like high that river was that we had to cross.
It takes you back.
Yeah, I didn't really realize like how much danger we were actually put in. Like I just like afterwards we all clapped, we all hugged. Like I was like, okay, that was fine, you know. But like looking back on it, I was like, dang, that's so dangerous. Like it just really takes me back, and
that's like a good outcome. Like anything can go south, and you know.
Yeah, I'm just glad no one was hurt during that.
Absolutely.
But
yeah.
Still crazy, but yeah.
It's nuts. Well, I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah,
I'm glad you survived, seriously. And you did such a good job. Thank you for wanting to tell your story.
Thanks for having me on.
Of course. I was so different. I was so excited for you to come on.
I was literally like telling my friends, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a podcast.
Oh, good.
So exciting.
You did incredible. So thank you.
Thanks.
Good job.